Hello and welcome back. We're going to start this week's video with a little footage which I shot almost accidentally one evening quite recently, and I was just sort of playing around with the layout with these two trains, and I picked up the camera and ended up shooting some footage which I think is quite good fun. So we're going to start with it today. There's just a few minutes of it running around the layout with different views. Now we've got the Battle of Britain class locomotive there named Spitfire, which I picked up from Dave Angel a few months ago now. I've been dying to get this on the railway. And we've got my old Triang Hornby Winston Churchill model here, much earlier style model from Triang Hornby, although it did start its life in the Triang Railways days in 1961. That's model R.376, if I've got the numbers right. And the chassis used in it was that developed for the Princess of the time, and it could take the upright smoking tube, and it later went on to have the synchro-smoke unit added to it, like the model we see here today. Sorry, I'm just mixing my words up. So this does have the synchro-smoke unit in it, but we're not going to be able to run quick enough for smoke today. And I am considering just removing the smoking element just to cut down on the draw, just to make it a bit kinder on the controllers perhaps. But a stunningly powerful model. It's absolutely effortless with that. Now the later model, the Spitfire, whilst it looks very similar, we'll go on to see a bit later in the video, it is quite different when you do begin to look at it very closely. It's not a sort of nuts and bolts, side-by-side teardown of both models. It's a very light-hearted look at the two models, but they are at first glance quite similar, and then they are really quite different. Both models do have magnetation, although it's not quite as powerful on the newer of the two models. Again, just charging into the station there. And there comes the Spitfire around the inside line, making quite light work of those coaches. Got a couple of Pullmans on, and I think there's 4 southern coaches with white roofs. There's the Winston Churchill. This rake of coaches has been on the railway for a few weeks now. Got the utility van there. Some of those earlier BR green southern style coaches. I really like those with the grey roofs. Storming around there. And here comes the Spitfire again with that great detailing on the smoke box door. Just listen to that whine the motor makes. It's a completely different sort of sound. Lovely shot through the engine sheds there. Just catch it under the coal dropping bridge. And it just sort of puts a great big smile on your face when they're running around like this. This is a sort of a realistically enjoyable speed to see them running when you're standing watching them. They do make a terrific sound on the track, as I keep saying. And the flanges on that one are a little deep, but it sort of gets away with it. I'm not sure exactly the date on this model. It's an unboxed one I have. And it does bounce a little bit on the point work. It does have a plastic drive gear rather than a metal one, so it's a late 60s model rather than an early 60s one. It does have the synchro-smoke, as I said earlier. Lovely looking thing that. Now, it does come with crew and vacuum pipes, but I haven't sort of got them out of the packet to add them really. I think I'll leave them where they are. The Winston Churchill does have crew fitted. We'll see that a little later on. Lovely shot from above there. We'll just pick that up off there and have a look for a moment. If I'm just to hold it in the palm of my hand, and we'll just move the rolling road out of the way, because we've got too many things out here at once, I think. I don't think we'll need the rolling road again. So I think there are quite a lot of similarities between this newer model and the older model. I'm not sure how much of the original chassis was used. Let's just have a quick look here. So I don't think I can hold both chassis together, but this is the new one. I think this model, the Spitfire R.374, came along in 81, was available till 85, I think, from what I've read. So it's got those lovely plated wheels and a partial flange on that centre one. So it does make quite a different sort of noise to the old Triangle model. So it does have the plastic worm in there. So can we see in there? I think probably if I hold it that way, it's easier to see through the cabling there. And we've got the plastic drive gear on the axle, so it's far more controllable. Has a much better ratio, I think. And we've got the collection wiper, one coming down vertically like that, and one lying alongside the wheels underneath there. Again, let's just see if we can get a better view in there. It's all quite dark, so let's turn that around. We'll get a look in there. So again, that rear truck is slightly differently attached, I think. I'll have a look at the instruction sheet. It's partially sprung, so there's a little bit of downwards pressure on it, and it's held by a long screw into the plastic part of the chassis, which drops off. And then we've got those lovely plated wheels on the front bogie there, and you can see that great detailing they've got in them there. I think one of them looks as though it may have split at the time it's been assembled. Let's have a look at that. I think on this one here, if we have a look closely, it looks like it may well have split when it's been pushed onto the axle, but it doesn't appear to affect the running at all. So it's quite a lovely thing. And I think, as the instructions point out, we'll have a look in a moment, it's an easy fit for 01. I think that's what that's designed for there, although I don't think I can fiddle that back into position there. So lovely looking thing. Look at those windings, they're all nice and bright. So I really don't think it's done terribly much running, this model, at all. It is in quite lovely condition. Let's see if we can just have a look at both of the chassis together. So I think this one I'm just picking up now originally was released in 61. You look at the similarities to the wheels. I think the wheels are probably completely redesigned with the tyres, these shiny plated wheels here, whereas we've just got what look like I don't know whether these are just machined all out of the one piece of metal. I'm not sure whether there are tyres on there or not. It's very difficult to see. Yeah, maybe I think we've got tyres on there. Yeah, I think we've got tyres on there. I could be wrong. Let's have a look at the backs of them. Maybe not. Maybe they're all machined as the one part. Again, looking at these things through the back of the camera is difficult. I think that would be all in the one part, and then sort of machined up to be those running surfaces on there. So you can see the earlier model had the synchro smoke unit. Earlier models still had the early type, the upright smoking tube. So let's just have a look at those two chassis side by side. I'm going to put this newer one down before we have an accident with something. So let's pop that down there, and we'll have a swift look over the slightly earlier chassis. This is probably sort of probably late 60s with the synchro smoke unit on it. So it's all a cruder thing, or maybe not that late 60s, because this one appears to have a plastic drive gear in the centre there rather than a metal one. So that could be late 60s perhaps there. And these front wheels on the buggy are all one plastic moulding, just pushed onto the metal axle there. I think this one does have some damage on the blocks here. Probably better seen from the side there. There we go. I think if we look in the side there, we've got some glue in evidence there. I think that's been broken and fixed in the past. There, if we have a look there. But a very powerful model, this earlier one. out of the two. This has a traction magnet behind both of these front and rear drive wheels. We'll have a look at the service sheet in a second. See, that motor's done a lot of work, hasn't it? But very, very powerful. And then we've got the plastic wheels on the bogie there. So I'm just going to pop that down. And I'm just going to wipe my fingers before we pick up any of the other parts of the models there, because they are quite oily, these chassis. But we'll have a quick glance at the service sheet here. So this is for the newer model, R.374, the Spitfire. And it shows how these collection wipers are going in here. And again, you look at the wheels there, they look like they're all one part. Although they do look like they have tyres on there. Sorry, I'm just bashing into the camera there. And there's that plastic part of the chassis which pushes onto the metal part and clips up underneath into it. And there's that sort of insert there that indicates you need a screwdriver there to separate. It'll be clipped in there, and it looks like it's hooked in at the back. So that bogie is screwed in with this long screw, and you've got the spring in there, and it's screwed into the top in there. Although mine, I don't seem to be able to unscrew it. I'm not sure whether it's designed to be unscrewed or not, but it looks like a rivet it's put into rather than a nut. Not quite sure how original that is, but it does the job. So if we have a look at the service sheet from the old Triangle Railways one, well, we can see there that was the model number for the older version, R356, named Winston Churchill, and 356S if it had the smoke unit, magna adhesion. And there we can see where the traction magnets were fitted there and there in these earlier models. And you've got the upright smoke unit there. Nice exploded views of the bogies and truck there. So great thing. The instructions there, or service sheet for 1962. I think the model originally came along in 61. Here's a slightly later copy of a service sheet when they swapped over to the synchro smoke unit there, look. And again, it's largely the same model at that point. You've got the wipers on the pickup plate there on the front and rear drive wheels. So let's pop the service sheets down. And there was another variant of this in the early 70s. I think 69, 70 it changed into SR green and became, I'm just glancing over at my notes, became R.378, I think from 69ish to 73. So this is the earlier model we saw running on the layout. I've mentioned this one in the past. When it came to me, it was in very, very poor condition. These are handmade or homemade nameplates. I could do a better job. Somebody had gone to the effort of scratching the numbers off, and you can see, if you look closely in there, you can see scratching where somebody's used at the back of a knife perhaps to take away the original numbering. It does have the crew. It's always had the crew in this one when it came to me. I think one of them wobbles, or am I imagining that? I might be thinking of another model. I've got another model where the crew actually is only pinned down at the front and tends to wobble when running. It's quite a comical effect. So let's have a look around. I think this is a really terrific piece of moulding for the early 60s. And I think they've taken, just modified it very slightly for the early 80s model. So have a quick glance on the inside of that there. You see plenty of space in there for the smoke unit. And without that smoke unit, a 01 chip could easily be fitted in there. I think we've got metal buffer heads on here. Let's just have a glance down there. I think if we get that in the light, we can get Triangle's name in there. And then we've got R356 hiding in the bottom there. I'm not doing terribly well with the lighting in here today. So let's pop that one down. Actually, no, we'll hold this one up and we'll just have a look at the body from the newer variant from the early 80s there. Let's have a quick look at them on the undersides there. So I think we're talking very, very similar here. Let's try and get some focus there. Although we do have that wonderful extra detailing on the front of the newer model. I think that really lifts the model. It's a shame they never ran to doing that on this earlier one. Let's have a look down. Both sides, much smarter labels or nameplates on this later model of Spitfire. And no crew in my later model, no. There is cab detail in there. We'll put the older version down before we drop one of them, I think. There is cab detail in there. Let's see, we can almost see that. I'll try and get you an insert picture in there if we can't quite see that when I look back over the video. But it's sort of got a slight sheen on this. It's not quite glossy, and it's not quite matte. But again, I've been after one of these for quite a while. So I think that's pretty much the same deal in there. There is a number stamped in the bottom there, although at the moment I can't really read what that is. So what have we got? Have we got Hornby's name in there? No, we've just got is that S5826 stamped into the bodywork just there. So we'll pop that one down. And we'll have a quick look over the tenders. I think again the tenders are very, very similar, if not the same, apart from the wheels and the livery, of course. So it's seen a lot of action, the older one here. A lot of handling by the looks of it. It's very, very sort of sticky looking, isn't it? This is much, much cleaner. But I think we're talking about the same piece of moulding here. You see this older one's had some glue work done in the past before it came to me. And there we've got these wonderful wheels with tyres on them on this later model, which makes it a much smoother running item. Although I have noticed these centre wheels do catch on one set of points only, I've noticed. Back around the near the controller, they can be quite troublesome on there, but keep an eye on them. It just seems to be in that one area. Let's put the older one down. Let's just have a quick look at this. You can see where it's been, the lining's been applied, and it just sort of slightly wraps around the tail end of the model there, but that doesn't happen on the other side, so I think that must have been perhaps applied by hand. So again, try not to handle that quite as much. So I think very pretty models, but I think we should just have and there is some sort of mark in the plastic there. That was there when it came to me. It was very ingrained into it. So perhaps I've tried to wipe it off and it doesn't come off. Perhaps I should have left that alone. But the other sides are more impressively clean. Again, I don't think it's had that much use in the past. Have a quick look over the paperwork that came with this later model. The older model doesn't have a box. It's an unboxed one. I bought it. It was in fairly poor condition. There we've just dropped the alternative names which came with it. Let's have a glance at those. So we have a good read over those. So I think we've got Fighter Pilot, Hurricane, and is that Manston? I can't quite read through the backing paper there, and the appropriate sort of cab side and smoke box door numbers, I think, there. So let's have a quick glance on the back. Nothing printed on the back, and there is the little packet with the crew and the old vacuum pipes there. Original staple through the very, very thick polythene bag. So this paperwork's in two parts. Oh, there we go. This model. I thought my model was 1981, but it's actually, my model's dated 82. Look, 1982. So R.374, 18th of the 2nd, 1982. I wonder why I thought that was 81. I think the model came along in 81. But let's have a quick look over the instruction sheet. Again, a very similar version to one we've seen quite a lot of recently. So we'll just pop that to one side. Yeah, we've just seen the back there. We've got Hornby Hobbies now on the bottom. And this sheet is concerning fitting 01 chips to models. I think it covers a variety of models. Again, we have seen a very similar sheet quite recently. And I think that diagram there sort of indicates that sort of easy fit or quick fit, where they've got the connectors there, so you can just splice in the 01 perhaps. Maybe, this model's got some extra tabs built into it. I don't think this one has, but I think the only provision in this one is this break in the brown wire there, so you can plug one of the cables into the 01 chips, and I don't think there are any other brass connectors on here which could be used. But I don't think it'd be a problem to fit 0 onto that. Maybe that's one I'll do, because there's plenty of space within inside it. And there's a whole list of other models which items can be fitted into. So I was just putting these models back together, and it suddenly struck me how different they are. I think there's quite a lot of similarities in the bodywork, and possibly a starting point the same with the chassis. There's bits which carry over and bits that don't. The wheels are a slightly different size. So on the new model here, they're about 24.6mm on the drive wheels, and the older drive wheels are about 24.3. And the axle centers are different. On the new model, we've got axle centers of about 28.7, and on the older model, they're about 26.2. So that's quite a difference. Obviously, we've got much deeper flanges on this old model. There are some other sort of differences as well when you start putting a ruler on it. So this item here is a different distance along the model than it is on here, and the length of this is different. The blocks are positioned slightly in a different place. They're set further back in the model on the older model, so it does have similarities. So I imagine they did some work on the old tool for the bodywork, and perhaps there are just sort of echoes of the chassis, the shapes where it plugs into the bodywork and so on. Obviously, we've got a different arrangement for the plastic piece which fits in with the braking detail there, where it plugs in, and you get the nice new wipers on the backs of the wheels. On closer inspection, I think we do have separate centres on these wheels on the new model, and tyres on the outside. Certainly on the two driving wheels, front and back. I'm not sure whether this is all cast as one and plated and then painted up the centre one. If you look at the backs of them here, so that looks to be all one and plated, whereas these definitely. See if I can get in there. Perhaps I can't quite get the focus there. So these ones definitely look to have a separate tyre around the outside of the centre body of it. I don't know, you can probably see that better on this edge here. You can see the rim is actually separate. So it's very similar, but there are marked differences when you start to measure things. But visually, at the first glance, they do look almost the same. But when you start to look at it, you can see there's much greater space in here, and the flanges are definitely much finer on this new model. Obviously, no flanges on the centre wheel there, and there are completely different reworked wheel centres as well. There are quite a few differences. So the rear truck as well, also quite different when you start to measure it. Similar in shape, but proportions are different. So we're back on the railway. This is a couple of days on from the earlier handheld footage you saw a bit earlier in the video. So we've got the Winston Churchill just waiting to come back into the station there just before points 1B. And we've got the Spitfire waiting patiently over there, so she can have the entire layout to herself, and we'll see how she runs around the outside section of the layout as well. So firstly, let's just get the Winston Churchill into the platforms. So we'll give that a little power. Smoothly through the point work. And we'll just follow her around. I think that's on what we're calling platform 3. I never remember the platform numbers on this station. So we'll just draw that through, bring her to a stop just there. I think the locomotives look terrific when they're waiting there just after the over canopy there. So we just need to adjust some point work now, so we can have the rest of the railway free to run the Spitfire around. So let's just have a quick glance at what we need to do. So I think we need to change that, and we want 1B left open, 2B needs to switch. So that'll get us onto the outside line. We don't yet want to go back into the station, so we'll close 8R. So we'll leave it like that, and then we just have to adjust the controller. So we'll make it all one rail, all one controller, one side of the controller. So we'll turn off the right hand side. We'll make it control just from all the left hand side. And let's see how we do with that. So I think I've got everything as it needs to be now. I'm just having a quick glance around to see if everything did what it was supposed to do. And I think it did. So actually no, I didn't isolate something, so I will just fully isolate both ends of the station there. Although that's more of an issue when you've got one of the overhead locomotives sitting there in the platform. So ideally this will move forwards now. Let's get in a little bit closer. And away she goes. Completely different sort of sound, this model, to the earlier Triangle Railways ones. Then you would expect that. It's such a redesign on the chassis, really. Slightly different variation of the motor, plastic gearing. So I think we'll just pull this up at the station. Don't think the platform is quite long enough, is it? Let's have a look. Yeah, locomotive just beyond the platform there. Just overhanging at that end. Still, it's close enough, I think. So what I'm going to do now is open up the elevated section. So the model does have the magnet adhesion, but that's the entry into the elevated section next to the goods shed, and that's the run out of the elevated section back into back onto the inside line, but then we'll run straight back onto the outside. So let's so I think it's this point here. I think I've had issues with the tender on the Spitfire in the past, so let's keep an eye on it, or at least I think it's the tender which causes the issue. So let's give this a go. So let's give her some power. And then we get into quite significant wheel slip there. And she will just do it. But that's not as convincing, I don't think, as one of the earlier models would be. So you can see here, I don't know whether you've noticed, I've had another Battle of Britain class sitting here in the engine shed. So this one's been renamed Fighter Commander. I think this one's from late 60s, early 70s. If we have a glance down here, so it's one of those wonderful boxes with the cardboard sleeve. We've got, there's the model number R.378 so 31st 10th 69 it says on there, but a little bit of damage on the end of the box. The name's missing, sadly, with the model details. It's just got Triangle Hornby on the other end of the box there, and I think there's been a little bit of sort of water damage to it there. So let's watch her come down the elevated section now. So let's give that one more go. Sorry, not one more go, we'll get her underway is what I'm trying to say. So we should have quite a nice controlled descent here. So she does have those very, very shiny wheels. So she is losing some of the effect of the magnet adhesion that way. So I've just slowed it down a little there for the point work. There we go. We don't want all of those coaches leaping off there. So once we're through the point work, we'll liven that up a bit. We'll have a good charge down the outside here. take a bit of power out for those curves. And I'm going to calm that down a little to come through that point. Let's get her all on the rise here. So let's see how she does with a move away here. So I think the other models do have a tiny bit of slip, but not quite like this. Let's give that a go. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit and see if we can improve the view. Maybe that's a bit better view. Yeah, so once you get a standing start there, it's not too good, is it? Getting a little bit more traction there when you're taking the power off. And we'll just bring that down onto level ground. Just take a little power out of it now to come through the point work. And there we go. So I think what we should do now is get the fighter command out of the engine shed and swap the locomotives round. So let's just bring that to a stop there. And let's fiddle with the point work a little, and we'll uncouple as well. So let's just grab, actually we want the other one here. Let me widen the camera so we don't get the effect of turning around quite so extreme. There we go. Let's see if we can get that in there. Actually, it might work better the other way around. I've got double catenary there. I can't quite get it underneath the tail of the tender. There we go. So let's run that around. Sorry, I'm pointing the camera at nothing there. Not really a stutter on that diamond, even at quite low speed. Now we'll just run her up onto the elevated section. Let's just flip that around. So she'll move away quite happily there, I think, with no weight behind her. I think the other problem with these later chassis is the magnet is physically further away from the wheels than it was on the older models. So you can get a nice slow crawl out of it as well. Take too long to get around to the engine sheds, I think, so we better speed that up. Let's see if we can get in front of her as she comes around. Let's stop that there. Let's fiddle with the point work and not get too distracted. So I think we're going to bring her, let's widen up her, actually we are as wide as we can get. We're going to bring her onto this line here. We'll just stand her still there. So let's open points 1R. Let's see how we do with that. Yeah, there we go. Nice and safe there. Then let's switch to R. And then I think we need to bring fighter command out onto the, I'm going to swivel the camera around again. My hand's getting tired. The camera or the phone on the gimbal is much heavier to stand that direction. Let's give that a little power, although we have no power there whatsoever. Let's see what's occurring. I got everything set. I seem to have everything set. So maybe we just need a tiny nudge on fighter command here. No, let me just check. I have got everything set. No, I've got an isolating track. I had it isolated there, I think. Let's try now. There we go. I think we just got that. It's just overhanging at the far end. I think we'll probably live with that. So let's rotate around. So we want to go anti-clockwise, really, I think. Let's just set the right hand side of the controller. Yeah, there we go. We're on for this. So anti-clockwise. So let's just have a look over a very shiny model. I think a better sort of colour match for the coaches. I think these coaches that I've got, the southern ones over here, these are from the very early 70s. Now we better grab hold of the controls again. There we go. So let's see if we can successfully back that off. Let's have a look at them sort of side by side a little. Look terrific together, don't they? So there's a much more glossy finish on this model. It has a lovely sound on the rails. Let's get that underway again. Not quite as smooth in operation as the later model, but that's probably what we should expect, really. But it has that sort of lovely solid sound about it that the earlier Triangle models have. The Princesses have this sound about them as well. They feel very solid on the rails. So we're doing well so far, backing around the layout. Let's see how we do with the point work here. Pretty good. It does have a smoke unit in this. The element is removed, and the gear that drives the piston is also removed. So this one showed in a video quite some time ago, running with another one of these that I have as a double header. I have another one named Winston Churchill. This one's been renamed by one of its owners in the past, I think. Let's slow that down now. There we have it. So let's give that a little bit of power, and we'll see if we can just have a swift run around with this, just to finish off perhaps. Just the take up in the coaches there. Slight sort of hesitation there in the diamond crossing. So I think these coaches share the same catalogue number as the earlier ones on the station, on the train that's sitting in the station. They might have had an A prefix at some point. There we go. And let's go straight for the standing start, perhaps. Let's give this a go. Oh, and there we've got the Pullman. So that's car 79. Sorry, not 79. That's the older ones. This is car 77. I think this particular model was R.374, came along in 1980, the brake. And then that's the other Pullman coach. So that's R.229, and these were available 74 to up into the 2000s. I think early models were named Lucille, and subsequent models, I think, as the 70s moved on, had a different set of names you could stick on yourself. So there's those southern coaches there. So I think they're rather nice. They've got white rimmed wheels. These ones, I have to say, I've sort of put them down in the past. This particular set, I hated running these on the Super 4. They were forever jumping off the point work. On this System 6, they seem to behave quite nicely. They were terrible on the Super 4. I hardly ever used them. So I do have some boxes that came to me in. Let's have a quick glance at them. So I think that's the box for the Pullman brake. So that's definitely an early 80s box. And then we have these are the ones the southern coaches we were just looking at came from. So all in various conditions, some interesting prices and store name there. So a variety of prices in evidence there. But these coaches were available, I think, briefly in the late 60s in a much darker green with a grey roof, I think, if I've got it right. And then again later in the 70s, I think these are the ones, I think these are late 60s. They have a dark roof with southern on the side. I've got 3 of those. I think I've got 2 coaches and a brake in there somewhere. And then in the late 70s, I think they went a darker green. That's got a grey roof. I don't know whether we can... Was that a grey roof or a white roof? I can't quite see. That's a white roof, but a much darker plastic on that one. And that's a silver seal box, so that's got to be mid-70s, hasn't it? SR Coach 933. Can't quite remember the date on that. But that one has a white roof on it. But got quite a collection of these southern coaches now. Sorry, we're getting distracted looking at all of these things. So let's see if Fighter Command will move away a little more convincingly than the slightly later version of the model. I think this one's going to do a little better. Let's go in a little tighter. Yeah, she gets traction much more quickly, and just for comparison, let me give it a little more power first off. Yeah, it definitely picks up the traction much more quickly. We just have a quick glance at the model there, standing on the side. Now, I remember when we looked at the other Winston Churchill, not the other Winston Churchill, the Winston Churchill in BR Green, that indicated it had traction magnets on both front and rear driving wheels. So this one is identical to that. So it has the benefit of extra traction. So let's give that a bit of power. And we'll just run this back onto level ground. And the other week we were having a look at the D49 named Cheshire, which is sitting in the sidings over there. And we were looking at the 81 catalogue. We only got part way through it. I thought we'd have a quick glance at that. Let's just concentrate on this for a second. I really didn't want to go back into the turntable. See, lack of concentration. Yeah, that's quite well behaved. So let's just flip 1R. That was never going to fit on the turntable. And that should just run back onto the outside line. Let's just do that to create some space to put the catalogue down. Stand back a bit more, get the whole locomotive in. I think we should probably just run that around. Does have an air smoothed casing. Should make it go a bit quicker, really. I joke, of course. So let's just close that. And we'll seal up that. And then actually, before there's any accidents, not necessarily in the next few minutes, but a little later on, let's just draw that down the back of the station. Whoops. The There was one point I forgot, wasn't there? It was 1B. Confidently switching the points there and forgot 1B. Let's get that back on the rails. Let's back that up and see if we can rectify the problem. So let's see what 1B is doing. That was left in the wrong position. So point motor is now caught up and the switching. And let's just roll that forward. It is a concentration thing. There we go. So let's grab the catalogue here. So the Spitfire does show up in this catalogue. Let's see if we can have a look. I think we got to about there when we were looking over this catalogue a couple of weeks ago. But let's just have a look at the Spitfire in here. Just go back a couple of pages. There it is. Possibly why I was thinking my model was from 81, because we'd seen the picture in here. I think that's quite an impressive image. The model really shows off the changes to the front end of the model. And I think I mistakenly said that spare numbering on the alternative number sheets was for the smoke box door, but it's not. It goes there just above the buffer beam, look. So there's the info about the model. And it does mention here that it has easy fit of 0-1 and crew and vacuum pipes. So of course we've seen those, but we haven't fitted those. Let's just have a quick glance at the model again. So I'll just flip this around. We'll just go in tight and have a quick look over the model. Looks great with the fighter command sitting in the background there. So let's jump back to the catalogue. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. So there is a slight difference in this red ring here on the front of this catalogue picture. So I think we said we'd got to, I've got it marked here where we got to last time. Actually, I do want to go back. So these coaches which were in the catalogue here, these were available spring of 81. It says probably a nicer colour match potentially for this late version of the Battle of Britain Spitfire. So I don't have any of those. They've got much bigger numbering on the sides, and I'm not sure if they're a similar mould or maybe they are completely different to these coaches. I haven't studied the picture enough to find out, but yeah, definitely a different green by the looks of it. This is much more vibrant here. So again, being sidetracked. Again, thank you very much if you stuck with it this long. Let's have a look. If you saw the earlier video, you'll remember we got to about here in the catalogue, and I said we should probably cut it short to try and keep the video a bit more manageable length. I realise this one is going on a little bit, but I think it's worth keeping going for a while. Again, these are lovely items here, very evocative of the time. So just catalogue sticking a little in the corner. So again, one of these later style pantographs as we've seen last year now, I suppose it is. These pantographs aren't terribly successful. They tend to catch on the clips. They're not an easy thing to use, and they don't look terribly good either. I think they're even just as a dummy, they're quite poor looking. Again, some terrific photography in here. They really do show the models, make them look very, very impressive. So illuminated head codes. The Class 37. I think that's the variant we were just playing with there. It's got the Ringfield style motor in it. We saw that running. Yeah, it's over there at the end, not the engine shed, of the diesel refueling area. So yeah, I think, did I forget to mention we got a little extra added weight in that to improve its traction. I think we did have a look at the inside of that. So its pulling power is not as good as the earlier variant. We've seen that running not that one, but that variation of it running just recently. Again, great coaches, lovely wagons. We've had some of those in the past on the railway. I do have a handful of those now, a couple of those, and we did see the silo wagons a little while ago running with the Class 29, wasn't it? I think that was just last week. I'm making this now, I've lost track of the videos and at the point at which they are going out. So we are just into the second week of January 2022 at the moment. So here's the 01, and somebody has very kindly sent to me one of these handheld units here. If we just have a look, along with a couple of other items, it's much appreciated. So this has arrived in the post a few days ago. So we'll just have a quick look over these. So one-handed, I might not be able to wrestle this out of the box, but there is a slave unit. So R.374 handheld slave controller. So I don't know, let's see if we can ease that out. So I know I've mentioned that I want to do the conversion over to 01, not sort of as an ongoing project forever and ever, but it was an idea for when I begin to take this railway down, which is going to happen relatively soon. Let's put that box, there's a price there, £12 on it. So I wonder at what period that was £12. So this is a wonderful ribbon cable there, isn't it? That's quite a thing. Look at that plug that would go into the side of the unit. I'm not sure if I can unwind this one-handed. Let's give it a go, because it's quite a cute looking little unit. I'm going to get into trouble here and it's going to all fall on the floor. Let me grab this and see if we can encourage it out. There we go. Look at that. So relatively smooth. It's the sound of plastic on plastic, I think, as the slider runs up and down the face plate here. And I've got a direction switch there. And I don't know whether that's to clip onto your belt. I don't fancy clipping that onto myself and then walking away with that cable. It could be quite a disaster. So it's similar in design, isn't it? So the one in the catalogue is probably a pre-production model. This catalogue was at 81. So I think this was a newer part of the controls at that time. I think some of the master controller showed up as looking slightly different in its earlier appearances in the catalogue. So let me just pop that to one side. I will definitely be having a play with this. So I will put it away nice and neatly at a point when I haven't got a camera in my hand. So again, lovely boxes. And then there is an unused module for the locomotive. So it's a R555. So I have too many fives on it there. Sadly, the pricing's long gone off the top of that card there. It's R55, isn't it? So I can't remember which variant this will be. I think there were a couple of different versions of this, and different capacitors. So were available in them. They were slightly redesigned as time went on to make improvements, and I think I showed in one of the earlier videos there was a revision to the instructions given, which was pasted onto I've got another packet where it's pasted on. So yeah, great items. And then there's some of the electrical paint for doing the contacts with to give it its number. It's a assigned number. So maybe this one, as it has the holes in there, that's one. And there is wire in the packet, isn't there? On the early ones, you would have made the assigning the number by twisting wire through those holes. On the later ones, you used the electronic coding paint to. Sorry, it's not coding paint, but electrical conductive paint. Again, I can't speak. There's a price of £1 on there. So lovely things to have. But thank you very, very much. That is really very much appreciated, that package of goodies. So I'll pop that down and we'll look through the catalogue. Actually, there was one other item in there. I'm missing an item in that box. As we rolled onto the other page there, I forgot to mention there is another item which is connected with this. So it's hiding away in the box, and that is the little LEDs. Or I don't know whether they were LEDs, but they are lights. These ones here. So once you've got your layout in there, these will be inserted from behind. And again, let's have a look at there. So it does say display LEDs there, made in England. Again, the pricing's long gone. I'm not sure whether I can get that packet. There we go. Open. So these are pre-wired. I'm sorry about the clumsiness of opening the packaging, but those LEDs would have poked into that board from behind now. I think they would show red or green, if I understand that rightly, but they both appear to be red on both sides, but that's a bit more research I think needed on that. Let's pop that over there. And again, these panels could be made up into groups for more complex layouts. So this control unit, which controls the display, I think went on to be designed slightly differently. I think it was a longer mounted unit which sat on top of the master unit in the end. I think they changed their mind in the way this was designed. This is probably a nicer looking item, but probably took up more space on your railway potentially. So there is the more traditional controls. Let's just pop that box away because it's casting a shadow on the catalogue. And there we've got the track geometry. There's lovely pencil illustrations here. The track geometry here, so you've got the basic track work, you've got a Y point, we've got diamond crossings, curved points. So a fairly extensive track system. It's a shame they never went for curved points in the Super 4 days. Lovely layout pictures there. Foam underlay, all moulded in the correct shapes with sleeper inlays. And we've got the turntable motorizing kit. We've seen all these things in videos. I don't think I've got part of a level crossing. I'm trying to think. I know I had been on the lookout for a level crossing. No level crossing on this layout. Signals and signalling. More buildings and line side equipment here, elevated sidewalls and so on. There's the engine shed and the diesel refueling shed, I think that's called. So that's quite a nice item. So I don't have one of those. So I think we're almost at the end there, but I think it's definitely worth having a look. A couple of APTs passing each other outside the station. I know we have the price list at the end, so let's just have a look. We'll just refer to that price list in a moment. We've got these later buildings. We've got another nice illustration on the rear of the catalogue, but no dealer stamp sadly on here. We've got a little bit of show through from the previous page. So 1981, 27th edition. Let's just have a look if we can see how much the Spitfire was back in 1981. Let's have a look down here. So there we go, R.374 SR Spitfire, available summer, £24.95. So a fairly expensive locomotive. I think the most expensive is the Seagull here, the LNER 462 Seagull. What is that, £27.95? Is that the most expensive one on the list? So it was a fairly expensive locomotive, the Spitfire. I think at £24. I've lost it in the list now. Let me just look for that again. R.374 Spitfire. Yeah, £24.95. A reassuring price, I think. A fair bit of pocket money would have been required for that, and there's an effective date on the top there, 5th of January 1981. But I think that's about it for today. Thanks again for watching.